rule book for opening and scaling a business. There may be some books you can read for sure, and maybe getting a mentor or whatnot, but I didn't get the warning that, hey, if you want to build a business and you want to scale it, hiring your team and training your team is going to be one of the most important. I wasn't quite ready for that. So throughout the years, I've learned how to get better at building the team and then setting them up for success, making sure I'm hiring the right individuals, and not just hiring the right individual, but also putting them in the right position to be successful.
All right, today's guest is Jorge Abreu out of Dallas, Texas. George's background is he is the CEO of J&T Construction. He's also the co-founder of Elevate Commercial Investment Group. He currently has 3,200 units, equating to $180 million in assets under management. He's got his engineering degree from Florida International University and spent a time before he got into real estate with an engineering degree at UPS. Started out flipping houses, then eventually started his own construction company and got into some developments, did some multifamily, and now doing big things in the syndication world. George, welcome to the show, brother. Happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
So, George, I've been looking at your social media, which are constantly all over the place. You pop up on my screen all the time. You are doing big syndications in Augusta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, Lubbock, Texas, Houston, Texas, all over Texas, all over the Southeast. You're doing conferences, you're speaking on stages, you're on like what looks like news networks. Brother, what are you chasing? What is it all for?
Go straight into the tough questions, huh? It's not really tough. I mean, I know what it's all for. It's for my family. That's my why. It's to give them the best possible life I can, give them the opportunity as well. Like, I don't want to just hand it to them either. So at least the opportunities. And that's what drives me.
What is, like, I'm guessing you have a vision at the end of all this. Whenever you hang the hat up, what is that vision? Like, what do you see?
I see me creating an insane amount of passive income where my family has the freedom, I have the freedom, spending our time how we want to, and then building a empire that I can leave to my family when I'm gone, and a legacy.
What is you got a couple of kids, I'm guessing, right?
I do. I have three daughters. They're 5, 6, and 8.
5, 6, and 8. Are they into real estate? Like they follow you around, you go do due diligence and construction, stuff like that?
I do try to take them around. The oldest, the 8-year-old, actually just went to Lubbock and she wanted to go with me. I thought that was a bit much with the 10-hour drive back and forth. So I didn't let her go this time, but yeah, no, they're all about it. They know what I do, and definitely want to make it a point to teach them early on.
That's pretty awesome, man. So I read a post that your goal was 5,000 units by the end of this year, right? And are you on track to meet that goal? And we'll back up and say, like, when did you set that goal, and how are you achieving that? It's a pretty hefty goal. I mean, not many people say that, yeah, I'm gonna do 5,000 units in this year.
Yeah, it's so I am on track. I guess it kind of depends, because I also have almost 1,300 units under contract that we're selling. So I guess that's gonna make me work extra now. It's a good thing, but at the same time, as it stands, if those were to not sell, which I do hope they do sell, I would definitely be going over 5,000 just with what we have in the pipeline alone. So, I wanted to set a goal for this year that I felt was attainable, and with the traction we had going into this year, I felt like I could hit that. The partnerships that we've been able to develop, and just the amount of deals we have that come to my desk, and I think it's there. So,
okay, let's back up then. Because I'm sure everyone's curious, like, how do you get to this level? And everybody's got to start somewhere. And I know that you started out, your family was in construction, so you had a kind of a good segue from childhood into construction. You went and got your engineering degree. Turns out, didn't sound like you liked working a day job, right? But walk us through, like, how did this all start, and how does one go from literally just being a guy at a W-2 job to having a goal of reaching 5,000 units?
I would have to say senior year of high school or so, like I just had a different mindset going into things. Like I literally had my daily to-do list of things every day. And, some of my friends would see me kind of planning for the next day and writing down my to-do list, and they thought I was crazy. But I was very driven and motivated to just be as successful as I could, right? And I knew I wanted to own my own business. I just didn't know what at that point. And that's what kind of made me decide to go ahead and get my engineering degree. But at the same time, I was trying to figure out what that was going to be. And kept reading about real estate investing and pretty much how a lot of the successful individuals out there have built their wealth either through real estate or it's been a part of it, right? It's been a tool that they used. So as I was getting my degree, and then eventually as I was working at UPS in their engineering department, I was doing real estate on the side. Started with, I got my license, I got my mortgage broker license, my realtor's license, not wanting to do those things, just thinking that I had to do that to learn how to invest, which I was wrong. You don't necessarily need those licenses, but either way, eventually it led to me doing a few deals, and then getting that taste and wanting to grow that. And I just quit the W-2 and I decided, once I felt like I had done enough deals consistently and that I can keep it going, I quit the W-2 and started building, at that time, a single family investment company. And then one thing led to another, right? So I wanted to scale the single family. A bottleneck started creating with the contractors and just being able to hire good contractors to crank out as many fix and flips as I wanted to. Brought that in-house, so then I was able to scale that part of it. And then as the market kind of changed, I started looking into some small multifamily and then holding some properties while still doing the fix and flips. And then eventually it transformed into doing some new development projects. And at one point, I think we were up to we were doing maybe 50 fix and flips per year. And then I'm not sure how many wholesales, maybe close to 100 wholesales or whatnot. And it was just very transactional, man. I was beginning to get burned out. And luckily around that same time, I got introduced to what a multifamily syndication was. And before that, I thought you had to, if you wanted to buy an apartment, you needed to come in with millions of dollars. I didn't realize that you could actually syndicate it, raise the funds from other investors, bring them in as partners, and then take it down together. So once I realized that, I fell in love with that concept, and I just I went all in.
Did you get caught up in 2008?
So in 2008, we weren't holding any properties. We were doing just fix and flips, and so I like to say we got lucky, right? We escaped that bubble that popped, and after that is when I started looking into holding more properties, because the pricing made sense and everything kind of made sense at that point to start building a portfolio.
You were in Florida in 2008, correct? Down in Miami?
I was.
All right. So that's something that's kind of interesting to me, is that, like, most people will invest in their backyard, and the only thing that's in their scope is like, I don't want to call it tunnel vision. To me, it's very comfortable based on where you live. That's your regional area, right? But you packed up from what sounds like a pretty big operation, like 50 fix and flips, which fix and flips aren't very easy to do across the country, and then wholesaling. and you picked up and
We
moved.
haven't gotten that big yet. And in South Florida, we were doing more like maybe 10 to 15. We were a few years into it and starting to ramp up.
Okay.
Didn't have a construction company yet, but at that time it was, I mean, the world stopped in South Florida when that happened. And it was from one day to the next. It was like somebody just shut off the power and you couldn't do anything. I mean, the pricing was so inflated. It was going down daily. Like it was impossible to buy a property, and it makes sense because you didn't know where it was going to be the next day. And that was what I was doing full time, right? So I had to kind of sit back and take a second and go, okay, what am I going to do? You know, am I going to go back to being an engineer, or I'm going to find a way to make this work? So what I found was moving. You know, we moved to what we found was a more stable market in Dallas, and started from scratch there. So that was a whole other story in itself. But,
were you single at the time, or did you have your family with you? Or
at that time, my wife was my fiance.
how'd she feel about it?
You know, she's amazing. She's always supported me. She was all about it. She was still graduating, so she was still going to school. She still had to graduate. So actually, I moved a few months before she did, and kind of got everything set up. And yeah, we kind of grew, and then that's when we started growing it more and more. And we started the construction company 2 years after that, and then really started scaling the single family.
So let me ask you this: you get out to Texas, you start your own construction company because what it sounds like is you wanted to be able to control the contractors, right?
Yeah.
And now a lot of the projects that I see you doing, it's almost like you're the only show in town that has everything in house. You know how to syndicate. You have your own construction team. You're all over the state of Texas. I mean, has that construction company been a force multiplier to your business that has helped you grow to the level that you are today?
Absolutely. I mean, it's something I'm constantly leveraging, and it not only helps us execute on our business plans, and take down heavier value add deals, but it also gets my foot into other deals where, you know, there could be a great partnership that found this amazing deal, and it needs a lot of work and they don't have the experience. So then they look at me to come and help with the CapEx, and not just hire me as the general contractor, but actually come on to the partnership and help with the CapEx and wherever else I can fill the gap.
All right. So let me ask you this question. Whenever I was in first getting started, I was down in Panama City, Florida. And I remember my first apartment complex. I bought it all myself, and I had the assumption I needed to do everything on my own, right? So I'm in there. I just hung some drywall, and I'm like watching YouTube videos on how to spackle and fill holes. I'm like mudding. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm mudding drywall. And I'm listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, and a guy comes on, and he's at a couple thousand units, you know, and he's talking about when he first got started out, and he goes, you know, I bet there's people out there who work at their day job, and real estate's a side hustle. He says they probably make $50, $60 an hour, and then they get off work and they go do something that only saves them $10, $15 an hour, like drywall or painting or pressure washing. He says there's some smuck out there who's probably drywalling right now. Like, dude, stop what you're doing and go get somebody to do it for $10 an hour. I'm like literally, I'm covered in paint and drywall, and I'm like, hey man. You're
Awesome.
right. I hate this. Like this, I cannot stand drywall or paint. And I went on Craigslist and found some Panama City guy who came and he drywalled all 7 units in like 3 days, cranked it out for $15 an hour. And that was whenever I noticed, like, okay, I don't have to do this myself. I need to learn how to delegate. And there's a joke in the military. It's not a very good one, but they say the 3 Ds of leadership is decide, delegate, and disappear, right? Which I know that's, but there is some truth to it. You know, like when it comes to you, you're obviously not doing it all. You have a team. Like your assistant called me to get you set up for this podcast, right? And I was like, oh man, this dude's got an assistant. I need an assistant. But there has got to be some things that you hate doing, that you cannot be convinced to do it no matter how much money it'll make you. How do you decide what it is you are going to do and how do you decide what it is that you're going to hire out help or delegate to people that need to get it done?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. And look, I was fortunate to kind of learn this early on. My first coach in real estate, Ron LeGrand, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Yeah.
he's been around for forever. He used to preach kind of the same thing. He's like, don't cut your own grass. Don't do this. If there's any task that can easily be done by someone else, hand it off. And that way your time is focused on the high income tasks, the ones that are going to move you forward and help you grow. So that's kind of the way I look at everything. If I'm doing something over and over and it's like a tedious task, data entry, anything like that, I'm going to document that system and I'm going to hand it over to someone else. That's leveraging their time so that I can get more done. And I think you have to do that. If you want to scale, I mean, you've got to be able to do that. Some people can't. I've seen it. They just physically can't get that mindset changed, and they're only going to grow as big as they can individually.
You hit the nail on the head with me, man. I cannot stand data entry, mundane daily tasks. And there are people that love that stuff. Like they want that structure. I want to know what I'm supposed to do. I want to know how long it's going to take me to do it. And then they're out living their life. And sometimes I envy those people because I'm like, you don't have to do a lot. You don't have to put a lot of thought into this. You know what I mean? Like me, I lose sleep at night thinking about what my next step is because there isn't a clear cut path for us, right? There aren't any like words. I think Elon Musk said it perfect. If an entrepreneur needs words of encouragement, well, here's some. Don't be an entrepreneur. That was like the perfect statement. And I constantly, am thinking about what's my next step, what's my next play. Whereas, people who aren't entrepreneurial or aren't necessarily concerned about investing, they know what it is tomorrow. They've got that schedule. That would drive me nuts, though, just doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm glad that you said that because it at least gives me, I don't want to say words of encouragement. It gives me a thought process that I'm on the right track here. But with you, it seems more you like to solve the problem and then be done with it. On to the next one, right? Is that pretty accurate?
Pretty much, yeah. Solve the problem, on to the next. Create a system to solve that problem if it comes up again.
Yeah,
so I don't have to solve it. Somebody else can.
Efficiency, right? And I see again. I look at a lot of your Facebook posts, and I do have a question for you. All of those Facebook posts that you post, I can tell some of them are definitely like you're on a plane, you're headed to the next spot. You love to talk about the projects. What's going on? Like, there's no way you have time to post that much stuff every day. You post every day, right? How did you set up a system? Who is it? Where's it coming from? It can't be you. There's no way. Come on, spill the beans, man.
A secret? No. So it's planning, right? A lot of pre-planning, taking professional pictures, which is weird, but you got to do it. And then there are some posts that I do myself. Obviously, at one point, I do want to have somebody that literally follows me around and takes pictures and does all that stuff, but I'm not quite there yet. So yeah, I mean, some of those I am doing myself, and then some are being placed in. We use Asana for our task management, and my assistant goes in there, and then I've got for the company sites, my VA. We've trained him pretty well, and he actually comes up with a lot of the content at this point. Yeah, so it's not always me.
Gotcha, dude.
I'm approving most of it. It's on my personal pages. I'm approving it.
Yeah. So what's the biggest? You said you like to solve problems. What is the biggest problems that you have had in the past couple of years? And like, what are your biggest problems coming up? And what are you doing to solve them?
I guess it is a problem. I mean, one of the biggest things that kind of like you said, there's no rule book for opening and scaling a business. There may be some books you can read for sure and maybe getting a mentor or whatnot, but I didn't get the warning that, hey, if you want to build a business and you want to scale it, hiring your team and training your team is going to be one of the most important. I wasn't quite ready for that. So throughout the years, I've learned how to get better at building the team and then setting them up for success, making sure I'm hiring the right individuals, and not just hiring the right individual, but also putting them in the right position to be successful.
When you hire somebody or when you partner with somebody, um, do you hire for character or do you hire for skill set?
Both. So character comes first. If the character is not aligned with mine and the company's morals, then I don't care what their skill set is. That's something I've learned throughout the years. So it starts there, and then it goes to the skill set, and that just depends. I mean, there's some positions where I just want somebody trainable, somebody that'll listen and willing to learn. And then there's other positions where I need that experience, and I want this person to be better at whatever it is I'm hiring them than I am. So it depends.
Yeah, I guess it all goes back to what's your return on time, right? Because I've got this going on. We bought a hotel in South Louisiana, and I don't think we would have bought that hotel had the staff that was in place not been as good as they are. I mean, they just if I would have had to take from cradle to the grave and train somebody how to do something that I don't even know how to do, which is run a hotel, right? So now I got to go learn how to run a hotel. Then I got to spend time teaching them what I really don't have any experience doing. There's no chance I would have done it, but the people that were in place were doing a great job, had great ideas. I mean, love what they're doing. And I bought into that team. I didn't buy into that hotel. I love the hotel. Don't get me wrong. It's a great little place, but the people is what makes it go round, right? So I'm glad that you said that, because I'm sure there's been some partnerships or some teams out there that didn't work out. Like you said, you kind of got bottlenecked early on with contractors and stuff. And if there's any experience that anybody has, I'm sure the poor ones are with contracts. That's usually where bad partnerships start, and interests don't really align. But that's awesome, man. So what's next for you? I know you have the goal of 5,000. You're doing ground up construction. I see you're looking for land. You're purchasing across the Southeast. Is that the same trajectory that you're going to maintain? I mean, have you got your systems worked out so well now that you don't really need to change much? Or are you still having to kind of deviate from your original plan?
Say deviate from the original plan, but definitely always staying flexible and adjusting. But overall, that's the plan, is to continue to purchase in the locations that make sense for us, that meet our criteria. So continue to still in growth mode. We still feel that there's deals out there. You got to be willing to find them. And on the development side, same thing. I still want to have a few development projects at any given time. I like how it complements, owning the B and C class properties, having some new development projects as well.
Awesome, man. All right. So a couple of questions for you that I ask everybody. And the first one would be, what's been your biggest failure in real estate, and what'd you learn from it?
Biggest failure was maybe, I talked about a little bit earlier. So after the 2008, when the market crashed, I began to build a portfolio and not just doing the fix and flips. And I purchased some smaller multifamily properties. And as soon as the market started picking back up, I sold them, because I didn't like the property management part of it, and the fact that I didn't have the scale at that time to really hire a third party. It didn't make sense financially. So I wasn't a big fan of having to collect rent and all that good stuff. If I would have stuck with that and kind of figured that out and definitely gone to the larger multifamily at that point. Be in a whole different place right now. But so I mean, that's really all I can think of. Um, Eventually found my way there, but could have been sooner.
So basically, you didn't. That's a pretty. I'd say that's a pretty good problem to have. Is if your biggest problem is I didn't get started sooner. I mean, at least that tells you, well, at least I got started and I am where I am because, figured that part out. I think that would probably be every real estate investor's. That's mine too. I got asked the same question on a different podcast. Like, what was your biggest mistake? And my biggest mistake is I was thinking too small too soon. I wish I'd have been thinking larger from the get out or from the get go. And I invested in real estate for about 6 years before I even put my first post out there, before I let anybody know. I was doing everything in house, doing all the bank, going and getting all the loans. I did 1 or 2 partnerships on some joint ventures. And I had it in my mind that if I partner with somebody, I was married to them for 30-year mortgage. I didn't understand exit strategy. I just thought you buy and hold. That's just what you do in real estate. And then the world of syndications came about because I was like you. I would drive through, a city and see a couple 100-unit apartment complex and be like, "Who the hell owns this? Like, how do you do what is this? Who's Mr. Moneybags?" And then when I realized that it wasn't one person, it was hundreds of people, like a team, and there was a leader of that team that just kind of had a vision. I said, well, why can't I do that? Right. I know how to have vision. I have a brain. I can think about things. And once that clicked for me, and I got into syndications, to be honest, for the first 6-8 months was just spinning my wheels because same things. I thought, we only have the experience to do 20 units, maybe 40 units. We got to graduate in this game. And it wasn't until I realized that I need to focus on leveraging other people's experiences, other people's partnerships. And that's eventually what led our team to doing a deal with you and Veterans and First Responders, which is our first syndication. So here we are, haven't done a single syndication, thinking we're supposed to do everything ourselves, to then realizing, hey, there's a guy who's at 3,000 units. We can partner up with them. Don't you think it would be a good idea to learn what they got to do, what they do, right? And that was kind of the aha moment for us. It's like, hey, we don't have to do everything on our own. If we suck at something, let's partner with somebody who doesn't suck at that, and then we can leverage their capability. One thing I know I'm not good at construction, especially on a big scale. Well, look at Jorge, who owns a construction company in Texas. How perfect is this, right? So that's what I tell most people is focus on relationships. Don't focus on what you're capable of. Focus on the relationships of what they could be capable of. And I think it's clicked for us. I think we're on the right track. I don't think we're going to catch you this year, but it's coming, brother.
All right, man. Let's partner on some more deals.
Yeah, but yeah, hopefully so. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Somebody getting into syndications who has that mindset, you actually are very open. You post it all the time. Hey, if you're wanting to get a GP complete, they can leverage your experiences and leverage your sponsorships, things like that. What makes you comfortable with doing that? And like, what is the ideal syndication team that you would partner with, and how can they get a hold to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I realize that a lot of people kind of keep it a secret and don't put it out there. So that's kind of why I've been putting it out there more. And I've still kind of creating the system, but I'm figuring out a way how to make sure if it's a good fit for everybody that's involved right off the bat, quickly be able to analyze the deal, analyze the team, see if there's synergy, see if it's going to work. And doing that together, we can obviously grow together. The hard part is you do get, look, I get people reaching out daily with deals and wanting to partner. So I think without a set criteria and a set system, it can get a little overwhelming. And, I hate saying no, but sometimes you got to say no. I do say yes a lot too, if it makes sense. To answer your question, what I look for in the team, I want to make sure that we've got a well-rounded team. And what I've seen a lot is you get a lot of investors that are kind of starting out, and instead of looking for partners that are good at what they're not good at, they kind of end up coming all together, and they're all good at the same thing.
Yeah.
But you've got, let's say, six partners, and none of them can raise equity, none of them can asset manage. They can all just find deals. That's not a good partnership.
Yeah.
So that's one, looking at the partnership, making sure their expectations are real, as far as how much of the GP they're wanting and what they can actually offer, and just making sure that makes sense. And then looking at the deal, obviously, where's it located, what kind of underwriting did they do, how deep did they go, and I kind of got that all laid out, which makes it easy to go through and see which ones are a good fit.
And that obviously helps you as well, because now it frees up bandwidth. I'm guessing that there's deals that are brought to you pre-vetted with a team in place. They just need a certain level of experience or a sponsor. And I've always believed that if you want to get a yes when you're asking a favor of somebody, you need to make it as extremely easy on them to say yes as possible. Somebody brings you something and it involves you having to do more than say yep, then they haven't done a very good job. And that goes from anything from watching my dog to hey, do you want to partner on a syndication? If I can show you the vision, if I can show you these are the holes that I need filled, and this is why I think you can fill them. If I present something to you and free up your time, and you can make a quick decision on it, even if the decision is no, the answer is going to be bring me the next one, right? But if I could, like I had a guy hit me up and says, hey, what would it take to take this smaller apartment complex down? And I get on the computer, I'm doing my market research, I'm calculating rents and all this stuff like that. And I said, hey, this looks like not a bad deal. Like, what did the broker say? And he's like, I haven't called the broker. I says, well, have you looked at the property? No, I haven't drove by. Well, what would you do, man? Did you just forward me a listing from LoopNet? Like, you got me over here working like a dog. You have what do you want? What partnership do you think is here? Like, you need to have done all of these things. And I mean, they just didn't know, you know what I mean? And that's fine.
You nailed it. I mean, I get, sometimes somebody will hit me up with a deal and then they send me like 5 different emails with the attachments and all 5 different emails with different documents. And like you said, man, but be organized about it, present it well, and make it easy. For sure. I mean, some people, I just don't even have the time to go through and see if it fits the criteria, just because of how unorganized they're presenting their deal.
Yeah, that's 100%. If there's a bunch of opportunities out there, you just, when managing your time, one of them is to free up bandwidth. I say it all the time. How can we free up bandwidth, right? And if you're a decision maker, then those decisions have got to be easy to make. They just have to be. And so I can. There have been a couple of people that have been brought into my life, and they've essentially done just that. Hey, man, here's a. Let me go on your calendar. Let me schedule a time that works for you. They set up a Zoom call, present something to me. And even if it's a no, I'm like, hey, man, you are on the right track. This is going to work out. Keep doing this. Keep doing this. Yeah. And I love that kind of stuff. And I have a feeling that that's the best way, correct me if I'm wrong, to get your attention is to present you something in a professional manner that frees up your time and gets on your schedule and it's convenient for you. What else? What else would make it where you look at a team and say, all right, this deal is going to work?
Maybe not even the deal, maybe the team, right? So kind of what you mentioned there. If they're well organized and they make it easy and they make a good presentation and you can tell they just have it together, 100%, I'm going to pay attention to that group, and I'm going to take my time to maybe even coach them a little bit to, if that one deal they're presenting isn't good, but I can tell that they're going to be easy to work with and they're going to be good partners. My best partnerships have been those individuals that are just, I hate saying organized, but just they can present well, and they'll also do what you tell them to do. If you're coming to me because I'm the deal sponsor and I got the 3,200 units and you want me to sign on the loan, well, listen to me when I tell you something. When I tell you to go talk to a tax consultant because taxes is one of the most important things in Texas, call that tax consultant and get back to me the next day and tell me what they said. So little things like that.
Doing what you say you're going to do, right? I think that's the epitome of how trust is built between people. And be punctual about it. Yeah, so I know that one of the deals that we partner with on, there was another group, veterans and first responders, and Wesley Yates is the head guy on that.
Perfect example. I mean, Wes and I have been, Wes started going to my meetups, and that's kind of how we met before COVID hit and all that. And he kind of just stayed around. He tried to find how to add value and constantly just until finally we worked something to where we're going to be partnering on several deals.
That's awesome. And that's me and him have been building a relationship. We met on Facebook. To be honest, I met Robert, and we have the same languages. He's a Marine. I'm in Navy EOD. We've both deployed to the same places. We kind of have similar backgrounds, at least in the military era. And whenever we got on a phone call together, they had basically posted that they needed co-GPs. And we were looking to be a co-GP with an experienced team. Got on a phone call with them, and Wesley will say the same thing, within 2 minutes, we knew that it was a good fit. And I think there's a misconception that, like, to be partners with somebody, that you have to have, this like you have to have grown up with them, and you have to have trust. But I think if you're good at reading people, and if you're in an entrepreneurial mindset, you kind of pick up on how to read people very quickly. There was synergy before we even started talking about the deal, right? It was, is this team going to work, before we even brought up the Lubbock, Texas deal. So I'm looking forward to partnering with Wesley and them on many more deals. And whenever we get to a level to where we're finding our own deals and presenting them, I mean, they're going to be the first ones that we bring them to, just because we've got that trust built now. So, but all right, George, getting ready to ask you the question I ask everybody. This is the Real Estate Podcast, and I want to know what bruises your bananas the most about the real estate world. And what I mean is, what's the biggest lie being told throughout real estate right now?
Man, there's a few, as far as, I don't know if it's the biggest anymore, just because so many are kind of saying the opposite now, and I'm one of them that continues to say this, is that you don't have to start small. You don't have to start, you even said it yourself earlier. You can jump into 100+ multifamily unit from day one. You don't have to purchase a 4-plex and then a 20 unit and then a 80 unit. Like, you don't have to work your way up to that. And honestly, I suggest you don't. I owned my first one was a 37 unit, and I say this all the time, but that one was more work than any of the other properties I owned, just because of the size.
And what is it about the larger apartment complexes that makes it easier? Because I definitely think you're looking up at saying, God dang, man, like how do I do this? I think it's comfortable to start small and work your way up. It just, your runway gets shorter and shorter in life, and you don't have the time or the scalability. But for you, what's easier about it?
To me, it's the fact that you have the payroll to pay for good on-site management, versus when you don't have that many units, you can't afford to have an on-site manager or a good on-site manager, and that requires you to either count more on a property management company, and you're going to pay them good penny for that, or to do a lot of it yourself. So, to me, we ended up having to do a lot more on that 37 unit one, that on the day-to-day than I've got to do on any of my other properties.
So I know when we were going through I was going through a couple of deals with Wesley the other day, and it seems like, at least in Dallas, there was a deal that we were looking at, and the comment was made, any complex that's under 40 units is going to have a real hard time finding a good property management company. And I was like, what? Like 40, to me, 40 units still, like, if I'm a property manager, and it maybe I'm looking at it from like an individual property manager, like a real estate agent who owns his own property management company. 40 units seems perfect. Like, they're all under one roof. But at the syndication level of 100 plus units, we're talking about professional on-site, like major property management companies. What seems to be that number, right? Like, that attracts those larger property managers that really hit that economy of scale?
I think some people say 80. I think it's got to be at least 100. And honestly, I'd rather maybe 150 plus. Yeah. But obviously the one in Lubbock was 119 units, so I'll do anything above 100. Anything under 100, it's got to be really close to one of our other properties where we can, share some of the staff.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because essentially your on-site management could potentially manage it if it's within a couple minutes or something like that, under that same leasing office or whatnot. Is that what you're talking about?
That, or not even, doesn't necessarily have to be that either. I mean, you can also share maintenance, and you can rotate your leasing agent possibly. Yeah, so more of just being able to share, not necessarily. I mean, if it's that close where you can actually do the leasing out of just one property, yeah, I mean, that's awesome too.
So you're basically saying it's sharing resources, right? Like, you don't have to go out and find a whole new management company and stuff like that.
Right, and you can also drop down the payroll by doing that.
So let me ask you this: if deals come in, like opportunities come your way, and they're below 100 units or 150, whatever your number is, I'm guessing depends on market and location, all that stuff. But it's a good deal. It's just not something that's going to meet your criteria. In that case, is that something that you look to newer syndicators, like Wesley, and say, hey man, this isn't necessarily something I want to spearhead, but it's a perfect one for you guys. Let's set up a call and put a partnership together. Is that kind of how it works? Or do you just basically, nope, it doesn't meet my criteria, on to the next one?
Honestly, I just go on to the next one. I wouldn't know if it was a good deal because I don't take the time to dig into it.
Okay. Makes sense, man. All right. Well, George, I think we need to wrap it up. We're at about the hour mark now. I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you got about another 2,000 units to close on, right? Probably this month. How can people get a hold to you? How can they learn more about you?
We constantly update our website so that they can find a bunch of information there, and that's elevatecig.com. So Elevate stands for Commercial Investment Group, so cig.com. If they shoot me an email at Jorge, Jorge, @elevatecig.com, I can also send them over my arsenal of free content, I call it. I've got a ton of stuff, due diligence checklists and questions to ask deal sponsors and a bunch more. So yeah, if they send me an email and tell me they heard me on this podcast, I'll go ahead and send that to them.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man. Well, George, it's been great having you on the show, man. I hope to have you back, and I hope to do some more deals with you in the future, bro.
Yes, same here.